What's up, guys? So, it's been a while. There hasn't been a lot of news, but today there are a couple of things I can actually talk about related to NASCAR games. Nothing really big, but there really isn't much else to talk about. So, I'm going to dive into this a little bit and give you my thoughts on a couple of different things. The first thing I want to talk about is related to Motorsport Games, and the only real news that's come out lately is that they are now a publicly traded company, meaning you can actually buy stock in the company, uh, and it's part of Wall Street now. So I'm going to look a little bit into this. I'm not going to get deep into it. I'm not an expert in the stock market or anything like this, but there's a couple of things I want to talk about that, in a roundabout way, does is kind of connected to actual game development. Okay, so we could scroll down here. This isn't really new news. This has been out for a couple of weeks now. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this, okay? According to the Esport Observer, this is, like I said, it's not new news, but it's recent. Motorsport Games looks to raise around 60 million going public on the Nasdaq. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole article, but the gist of it is that they are now officially up for investment. If you're looking to buy stock in a company, you can actually buy shares of Motorsport Games. So the initial price range per share was $16 to $18, but it went up to about $19 to $20 per share. Okay, increased the number of shares as well in the IPO from 2.35 million to 3 million shares that they made publicly available. Okay, let's see. So that in itself should raise, okay, common stock shares at an anticipated range of 19 to 20 lots. It should generate gross proceeds of 57 to about $60 million. So that's going to help the company generate some pretty big revenue, right? Now, before I go further, it was about a year ago that I spoke with Steve Hood, the president of Motorsport Games. And what he said to me was that a big investment was being made in the company, that, money wasn't going to be an issue. But I do believe at the time he was talking about private investment. He wasn't really talking about, raising money through the stock market. But as we all know, a lot's happened in the past year. Since then, we've had a pandemic. The economy globally has suffered, and I have no doubt that it made uh, motorsport games have to scramble and change a lot of their plans. That's not surprising. That's to be expected with everything happening. But the bottom line is, with this, they're going to raise a lot of money. Okay, let's see. Let me just look a little further. Following the IPO, Motorsport Games will have a total of 17 million shares outstanding. Okay, this stuff is a bit above my head. I don't want to get too lost in the weeds here. I want to kind of try to keep this as simple as possible for the purposes of what I want to talk about. Okay, so this pretty much covers that. Okay, yeah, it talks about Motorsport Games extended its license agreement with NASCAR for 10 years to the end of 2029. Exclusive rights to organize esports leagues and events for NASCAR using its NASCAR properties. The common theme every time there's any article or any mention of motorsports games is esports. It's clear to me that the number one goal of this company is to have all of their uh, titles. It's really just going to be under the umbrella of esports. Their main goal is to get people involved in esports. I'm still not 100% sure how esports generates profits for anybody. The business model of esports is something I don't really know much about. I can only assume that a lot of it is through sponsorship and advertising. I mean, I don't know how else they can generate profit as a business model. That's a bit above my head. So, uh, they're working on multiple titles. I've talked about this before: British Touring Car Championship, NASCAR, uh, and other stuff. So, all right, let me back out of this. So, basically, publicly traded. Um, Now, there is something else I wanted to show you guys. There is some other news related to the stocks came out. There's actually a lawsuit. I forgot the CEO's name. Steve Hood is the president, but there's some other guy. He's the CEO of Motorsport Games, and there's actually a lawsuit that's filed, and it has to do. You know what? Let me see. Motorsport Games lawsuit. Bear with me. I know this is pretty uh, dragging my feet a bit here. I'm trying to find this. Okay, here we go. Bloomberg News. So, no, not now. Video game maker Motorsport's top executive was accused of wrongfully shortchanging investors in a lawsuit filed just hours before the company's IPO, which was, I think, a couple days ago. Now, I'm not really sure what this all entails, but it had to do with initially the price of the stock was lower and then they went up. Like I said earlier, it was like $16 to $18 per share, and then it went up to like 19 to 20. And somehow there was uh some of the investors felt like they got shortchanged. I don't know what this all means. This is a bit above my head, but it's not unusual to hear that there's some shenanigans going on when it comes to the stock market. Um, so just because there's a lawsuit doesn't mean that something nefarious happened. A lot of times lawsuits are filed and they're not always legit. They could be frivolous lawsuits. It could just be a misunderstanding. I don't know what's going on. I only wanted to bring that up just to me it's doesn't sound good when you hear that. This company is just starting. They're still hiring people, so that's not a good look. So I don't know what's going to come of this. I will try to follow it, probably not too closely. I know a lot of this stuff just doesn't interest people. But the reason I wanted to talk about uh, this this move by Motorsport Games to uh, sell stock in the company publicly is because I wanted to point out that a lot of decisions made by game developers or just any company in general, a lot of the decisions they end up making is to appease shareholders. I've talked about this in the past, not really in detail, but when you look at Rockstar, the parent company, the publisher is Take Two. And Take Two, uh, we already know what they've done with the NBA 2K franchise. They've just turned it into a monetization machine. Uh, they've really done a lot of damage to that franchise because they're just trying to squeeze easy profit. They're trying to turn a quick profit, and a lot of it has to do with trying to appease shareholders. All shareholders really care about is their quarterly statements. They just look at these the shares religiously, and they want to see that the share value is going up, not down. A lot can happen in 3 months, right? And every time you get a quarterly statement, a lot of people live and die by that. When you make investments, it's really more of a long term investment. And a lot of people are trying to do these quick, overnight, get rich quick type of transactions where they buy stock into something that they think it's going to just, you know, explode overnight, and then they could fucking make a big profit right away. And what happens is the people in charge at the top of these companies, the CEO especially, right? How often have you heard these guys, they get away with these massive multi-million dollar bonuses at the end of each year, or these golden parachutes before they decide to just fucking leave the company? And the reason they make these giant bonuses is because of their performance when it comes to the value of the stock, right? So every year they have these big meetings. They talk about it's really private shareholder meetings, right? So they're not meetings that you and I are privy to. They're not really revealed to the public, but behind closed doors, they have, with their biggest investors, they have these meetings. And the purpose of these meetings is for the CEOs and the heads of these companies to give assurance to their shareholders that, we're doing well, we're coming up with these ideas, or a better product, and this should, then they look at projections, right? They want to see where the company's going. And it's all to appease shareholders. It's just to assure them that their stock is in good hands. And it doesn't sound like a bad thing, but it really ends up working out to not to our benefit as consumers, because what happens is these companies start doing things to make a quick profit. And usually the quickest way to make profit is to spend less, to fire people, uh, just to spend less money to improve products. Because if you spend less, obviously it goes to the bottom line. And also you get all these microtransactions. Like, I brought up Take Two with NBA 2K, but also with Rockstar. And the reason we don't have GTA 6, and we're not going to get GTA 6 for at least 2 or 3 more years, at least, is because Grand Theft Auto 5 is still making a lot of money. Not because people are buying it for the single player experience, or because the initial game is so great. The game, listen, in all fairness, it was a great game when it came out. It is a quality game. And personally, I can attest that I got more than my $60 worth. I paid $60 for that game, and I played the shit out of it for years. But we are now reaching about 7 or 8 years now since the game released. That's insane. And Grand Theft Auto 5 has gone on to become the single most profitable product in history in terms of entertainment. In the entertainment industry, right? Nothing has made or come close to making as much money as Grand Theft Auto 5. And the reason for that is they've been able to squeeze all the milk out of this cow, every single drop, through microtransactions, in terms of shark cards and stuff like that. And as long as they continue to make a profit off GTA 5, they're not going to rush to release another game. So they don't rush things, which is good, because when you finally get the games, they're pretty fucking good. Okay? But still, people have been asking what the hell's going on with GTA 6. Well, that's what happens. Take Two is only concerned with making a quick profit. And their shareholders are fucking thrilled. But once they're not making the money anymore off of GTA 5, I guarantee you they'll move on and they'll start pushing the next product. And That's what shareholders want to know. They always want to know what's next in store. And I can guarantee you that even though the rest of us don't know what's going on with GTA 6, the people that know are the people who own a lot of stock in Take Two. They are the ones that go to these secret meetings, and they're the ones that Take Two tells, listen, this is what we have planned. GTA 6 is coming, and they probably already have a tentative date, right? Because you can't really lock down a date definitively, but that's why we don't have a GTA 6 because people are still buying fucking shark cards. They're still spending money on GTA 5. So, in a big sense, we as a community are to blame for the reason that a lot of these games turn out the way they do. But it's not necessarily a bad thing that they're raising all this money through an IPO because at the end of the day, it guarantees there's money. The question is, what are they doing with this money? So if they make the right decisions and they continue to hire people, by the way, I also read, I'm not going to look for it because it would just take too long, but I did read somewhere, I don't have the exact number, but they have somewhere in the 60s range in terms of people that they've hired. I don't know if all of those people are just developers, actual game developers, or that includes the whole workforce. I don't know for sure. But the reason I bring that up is because also a year ago, when I spoke to Steve Hood, and they also released information, they were looking to hire around 100 people. That was their goal. That was a year ago. So they have clearly not met their goal in terms of the number of people they wanted to hire. So I'm not surprised. It doesn't necessarily mean that things are going bad, but considering everything that's happened this past year, I'm not surprised. But my main uh, point here is that I really hope that we don't get a situation where Motorsport Games is just only concerned with trying to appease shareholders and making decisions based off of that, because that will hurt the product because they're not going to be as willing to spend. A lot of people assume that these big companies with all this money automatically make better games. That is not the case. I've said this for years. One of the biggest companies in the gaming industry is EA, Electronic Arts. It's also one of the most hated companies. They are horrible because of microtransactions, DLC, all the garbage they pull. Madden football is one of the most hated franchises now. Their consumer base is as upset uh, with the developers as we as a NASCAR community are with the NASCAR games that we've been getting. In fact, a case could be made that they're even more pissed. They're even getting less for their money. But my point is that assuming that a big company with a lot of money is automatically going to deliver the best game is not always the case. So it really depends on what decisions they make. What are they going to do with all this extra money? So I'm glad I'm hearing. And there was another article, again, I'm not going to look for it. They actually raised more money than they anticipated. So from the looks of it, Motorsport Games is in a very good place financially, at least at this point. So I hope they reach their goals in hiring people. They haven't released a lot of information this past year, but I did cover a interview that Steve Hood had with I forgot who, but you guys can go back and I did a video on that. And for the most part, I was satisfied with what I was hearing. But you always have to take that with a grain of salt because these developers always do this. They overhype their products. They always tell you the best things you want to hear, and then when you finally get the finished product, very rarely does it match the rhetoric. So I do like what I've heard this past year, But, I've been there, I've seen it, so I have to move forward with a lot of trepidation. So, speaking of, hiring, right? This brings me to something else. So let me go to one of my subscribers, okay? John Hoheisel. I hope I said your name right. If I didn't, I apologize. But in the last video that I uploaded, he dropped off some new information. And I always thank you guys, and I always tell you guys if there's any information out there that you think I could look into and give you my thoughts on, let me know because I'm not a fucking journalist and I do look for news from time to time, but I don't just do that. I don't get, I don't make money doing this, and it helps. And a lot of times, a lot of information I've gotten in the past is because of you guys. So I am thankful for that. And John Hoheisel, here's what he left earlier today. Keep the videos coming. Also, looks like the next NASCAR game will be on the Unreal Engine, right? So this is the news you probably tuned in for. You didn't really care about this IPO stuff, but I do think it's important that I spoke a little bit about that because I want you guys to keep in mind why those things are important and why these guys make certain decisions. They end up becoming more concerned with appeasing shareholders and keeping them happy than really, shareholders don't want to hear about, hey, we got to delay this and we got to invest more money here, here and here because a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, we want to make sure that the games we put out are top quality. Shareholders don't want to hear that. Shareholders want to know, what are you doing for me now? What am I going to see in my next statement, my next quarterly report? This doesn't help me right now. I don't want to fucking wait 2 years and to see steady growth. I want quick growth, and a lot of those things affect the decisions made. That's why I bring that up. I'm sorry if you guys found that somewhat boring. I get it. I'm not an expert in the stock market or anything like that, but I understand how decisions are made, and that's what happens behind the scenes. So I hope that Motorsport Games is doing the right thing and they're thinking long term. They're not going to just go out and push out a rushed product that's unfinished just to make a quick buck. We've seen that. Look at what happened with this fucking Cyberpunk game. Turned out to be a massive failure. And they made all these giant promises. The game turned out to be nothing like they hyped it up to be. The game was finished in a horrible, unfinished condition, full of bugs and glitches, especially on last gen consoles. When all along they were telling people that the game ran great on old consoles, so they lied about that. It's not that they didn't know; they knew the condition of the game because they told people who got early access that they were not allowed to post their own footage. They had to use pre-approved footage from CD Projekt Red, who's the developer. Again, I'm I don't mean to always steer off course, but I start talking about one thing and there's something else that comes in that, you know, I think helps me make the point. But what I'm saying is huge company, huge money went into it. They spent almost 8 years developing that game and it still wasn't ready. And it's a fucking mess. So it's not always about money. It's not always about the name recognition of these big companies. So let's move on from that. So here we go. John Hoheisel sent me this link, right? Motorsports Senior UI Artist Motorsport Games. Now, what this is it's a jobs listing, okay? It's a simple jobs listing for Motorsport games. It's for this is UI artist. I guess user interface. They need somebody to come in and develop a user interface. I guess, for these games. Like I said, it's not just NASCAR. You got NASCAR, Le Mans, BTCC, which is British Touring Car Championship, looks like a cool title. And other motorsport licenses need outstanding, passionate talent to get us where we want to go. So they're still hiring people, right? This is a job listing. So now, this is where uh, we know what the engine is going to be. Because under experience, it clearly says demonstrable Unreal Engine experience. So it makes sense that it seems that this is the engine they're going to go with, and it looks like this might be what they use for all of their titles. This isn't 100% confirmed, but this is what they're looking for, and it makes sense. Okay. Now, personally, I've told you guys, I think that the whole game engine debate is a bit overblown, in my opinion. This is just a tool. Yes, it's important. I'm not telling you it's not important at all, but everybody's screaming and blaming the Unity engine for everything. And I'm telling you that it's the people using these tools, okay? It's their talent level is what's going to dictate where this game goes, what it ends up becoming. You can give two completely different people the same exact set of tools and you tell them, build me a cabinet. And you're going to get two different cabinets. And one of them it's going to be better quality, or you may feel it looks better, or you just like it better, because a lot of your personal talent and innovative spirit goes into this stuff. Okay? So it's not all about the game engine. It's about the innovative spirit and the artistic ability of each individual. And if you get good developers who have a lot of good ideas and are passionate about what they're doing, you're going to get a better game. So, yes, it's important. We know what the game engine is. It's one of the best game engines out there. So, I'm just glad that I don't have to ever hear again about how horrible the Unity engine is. I'm not telling you that this is not important. I'm just saying it's just a tool to build a game on. And yes, this is a better engine than Unity, but it's only going to matter depending on who signs up for this job. So I hope they get some really passionate developers who really care about racing. Now, it even says here job requirements, an interest in the racing genre. So you don't want people that don't care about racing to be working on these games. That's important. So you got to get people that are passionate about what they're doing. So the bottom line is we pretty much know now that it seems like they're going to be using the Unreal Engine. So I'm sure a lot of you are going to breathe a sigh of relief. It's what you've wanted to hear. So be happy with that. I hope they're able to hire the people they need and they want, but they aren't there yet. They talk a lot about the UI, which is, I suppose, the user interface. Correct me if I'm wrong. It does, it just, it feels like their intentions are good. Even though I am not thrilled about this whole esports thing, that's pretty much 90% of what they talk about. It always goes back to esports and this ecosystem, as they called it. Their main goal is to get people to buy these games for the purpose of competing in these pro leagues and esports and all that stuff. It is what it is. That's not going away. That's what we have. And I don't want to be negative because this is all we have. So the best chance we have to get a good, solid, well-rounded NASCAR game is Motorsports Games. So we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening. But who knows? I'm not thrilled that it does seem they're pushing for a release for 2021. I honestly feel that, especially seeing that they are behind where what their goals were, right? They're still far short of the people they need. I would like to see an extra year. Just wait 2022. Also, in terms of NASCAR, this upcoming season, I'm going to stop short of calling it a throwaway season, but it's close. You know, this is the last year for that car, for that generation. They've made a lot of changes as well. That's something else that affects game development. Every day, NASCAR is making some new decision. I just read that they're going to try a spec engine at one of the doubleheader races at Pocono. Now, that's a decision I actually support. I actually like that decision. I am curious to see what happens with everyone running the same spec engine. I know there's going to be people out there that are going to be upset. They're going to say, oh, you're taking away more of the individuality of these teams. It's not that big a deal, in my opinion. I think this will even things out a little bit more, and it gets you to see that much more of the individual driver's talent. I like this idea. I hope it works. Also, the fact that they're doing it at the doubleheader tells you it's going to give you a direct comparison from one race to the next. It's the next day. So you're going to be able to see how the race pans out with the spec engine and how it pans out with the 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 individual packages. So my prediction is you're not going to see a big difference. I don't think so. I don't think you're going to see a noticeable difference. I'm not saying there's not going to be any difference. I just don't think it's not going to be that big of a deal. The reason I'm supportive of it is because it's supposed to be another step towards reducing cost, and these teams not having to invest in research and development for these engines and all this other stuff and testing. Everybody run the same spec motor, and I like that. And anything that helps reduce costs for the owners, and I think it's a step in the right direction. So that's another bit of news I saw, and so I like that. I support that. These other decisions NASCAR is making, I do think is they're going way overboard. All of these road courses, I know a lot of people wanted more road courses, but I personally think five would have been the perfect number. Now we have, I think, seven or eight. Not all of these road courses are going to be good. Uh, some of these road courses just aren't conducive to promoting good racing for stock cars. You look at Coda. Coda's not an old track. I suspect they wanted to add that to the circuit because it's kind of new. It's, not brand new, but uh, to help promote the track as well. But I saw the layout of that track, and somebody actually showed it to me on iRacing, and it does not look like a good layout for stock cars. I don't think it's going to produce a good race. That's just me. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't like all these road courses, man. They've gone too far with that. Um, and I'm not against changes. You guys know I'm not one of these guys that like just hates every change. I support NASCAR. They're being very aggressive with some changes. They're not afraid to try things. I like that, but they have gone overboard. The same thing with the the playoffs. I do think they really need to consider pulling back to when like at most 10 cars, right? Like the when we had in the beginning, 10 cars is more than enough. And personally, I think the perfect number would be 8. Even 10 is a bit much. But if you go back to 10, that's way better. They have watered down this championship. 16 fucking cars competing for a championship. Half of these guys don't belong in the chase. I mean, and some of them, there's always one guy or two guys that got in. They won a lucky race. Maybe it was shortened by rain. Maybe, for whatever reason, they got lucky and they backed into the playoffs. They are nowhere near ready to compete for a championship. They just don't belong there. You don't need this many people, and it waters down the championship. It's not that special if you make the chase. When it was just 10 cars, it felt more special. And I just think NASCAR's gone overboard. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But the reason I bring that stuff up is because that's another thing that I think affects what Motorsports Games is trying to do. And if they're trying to push a game out this year, NASCAR is still making last minute changes. He just added more road courses. Now, Motorsport Games has to add a lot of tracks that maybe when they first started working on the game or in the planning stages, whatever, they weren't ready for that. Then all of a sudden, who knows, next week, they probably add another road course. This dirt race at Bristol, another fucking dumbass decision by NASCAR, in my opinion. It's a gimmick. Dirt racing does not belong on the Cup circuit. I'm sorry. I know there's some people out there that are looking forward to it, and you're going to get upset that I said that. It's just my opinion. If you disagree, fine. I don't think it belongs in the Cup Series. I think it's a gimmick. It feels like a gimmick. Some of these changes that NASCAR is making feel like gimmicks. They feel desperate. And it's like, okay, people are saying they want more road courses. Boom. And then they overdo it. That Daytona road course, in my opinion, sucked ass. Okay? It was a boring race last year. Some road courses are not good for stock cars. Now, there are some that actually do work. The Charlotte Roval and Watkins Glen are great. To me, those tracks are perfect for stock cars. You could put the trucks on there. You could put the cars, the Xfinity, whatever. They produce good races. Though the layout of those tracks are conducive to 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 producing good racing with stock cars. Sonoma is one I never liked. I never enjoyed those races. I That's all I'm going to say about it. But these constant changes affect the developers. Every time NASCAR makes a big change, Motorsport Games has to be like, oh, now we got to add another fucking road course or we got to add this track. This is why I think they should have waited. And another reason is marketing wise. If they would have waited to 2022 and that was their first official game, one, they would be able to put more time and resources into it to make it the best possible game. Also, marketing wise, the game comes out side by side with the next gen car. That alone would help boost sales for the game. If you push this game out this year, in the back of your mind, this is it. Next year is going to be a next gen car. So a lot of people may be like, I'm not going to bother with this first game. I'll wait till next year when the next gen car comes out. I'm not saying a lot of people are going to do it, but some people might. And I just don't like it. You're painting yourself in a corner. You're going to release something, and I hope I'm wrong, but you're going to end up releasing something that is going to be lacking in a lot of areas. And people, I'm telling you now, I've said this before and I fucking mean it. If this game doesn't impress me enough, I'm done. I've already reached the point where my passion for this, I've lost a lot of it. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably noticed. It's hard for me to make videos anymore unless there's actually something to talk about because I'm just tired. I've been doing this for 8 years. I've put everything into it in terms of trying to push ideas forward and my criticism. I've been trying to help these guys. I've been telling them where they've gone wrong and what they need to do. And they haven't listened. For the most part, we only got stats in these fucking games 2 years ago. After 6 years that I was screaming about it. So I don't know, man. I hope these guys are listening to the community. You know, we're telling you we want to give you our money, but you got to give us what we're asking for. And if this becomes just another season pass, just like the Heat series was, a season pass for fucking pro league garbage, I'm out. And I think a lot of people are, they already have one foot out the door. We already went through 5 years at Utechnics, 5 years at 704, the same shit. Baby steps after the first game of each series. It's the same shit, everybody defending them. Oh, it's just the first game. You know, I don't want to fucking hear that this time. And I'm sorry. It might feel unfair to Motorsport Games, but you're. No. Sorry, guys. I'm getting all of these stupid calls, you know, these unsolicited calls from fucking scammers. I'm sure you get the same thing. This shit's a fucking plague. Anyhow, back to what I was saying. So yeah, those are my thoughts, really. So the Unity game engine, that seems to be what they're going with. That should make a lot of people happy. Just remember what I'm telling you. If if they don't if they don't push for the right things, it's not going to matter. You know, a game engine is not magic. It's not just going to deliver what you're looking for. It's the developers that have to do it. And a lot of these guys, you know, part of being a game developer is being an artist. And people forget that. That's a big part of this. So, when you're an artist, how do you measure that? You can tell somebody, look at my resume. I know how to work with the Unity engine. I've worked with it. I have experience. But there's no way to convey your talent level in terms of art. What are your capabilities artistically? That's hard to measure. And some guys are going to be really good and really deliver something unique. And other guys are just, you know, they may know how to use these tools, but if they don't have that innovation within them as an artist, it's not going to matter. So, those are my thoughts. I look forward to your comments. And if there's anything else I could do a video on, I will. Once again, I want to thank you guys for keeping me updated on any news that comes out. I appreciate it. And I hope you got something out of it. Let me know what you guys think. I look forward to your comments. Later.